Yeah, I'm going to edit that out. All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Timothy Rooney.
Dakota Weekend.
Also known as
DwDrawings.
On the website of
DeviantArt.
Check that out. You'll see his artwork, which is actually quite wonderful. But we are here for something very specific today.
Yes, we are.
We're here to talk about the review Spider-Man the Animated Series.
Yes, we are.
You want to start us off?
Okay, well, I don't know about you, but Spider-Man, this show started me becoming a huge Spider-Man fan.
Right.
If it wasn't for the show, I would not be into anything Spider-Man related. I grew up with this show. The show made Spider-Man for me.
I think it was one of the first initial thoughts for me to become a little bit of a Spider-Man fan. It wasn't until the Sam Raimi movies that came out in the early 2000s that I became a Spider-Man fan. But I remember watching the show and loving it so much when I was a kid. And the reason this review today is to talk about us at this moment going back and watching every episode of the series and seeing how we feel about it.
That was enjoyable yet painful.
At times.
Like yeah, at times, but the
show more good than bad.
Yeah, more good than bad. There's a lot of things where it's definitely child friendly.
Yes. For
adults like us, we're not. Well, let's just talk about it.
Yep, let's.
Spider-Man. It premiered on the Fox network, Fox for Kids, Saturday morning and everything like that. In November of 1994, it ran for 5 seasons until January of 1998. The series consisted of 65 episodes with Spider-Man in it, and it had a lot of crossovers with other Marvel shows at the time.
Including X-Men.
Had Punisher, it had a bunch of characters, including Stan Lee, even.
Spider-Man creator Stan Lee here, who, by the point of this review, turned 90 just a few days ago. So, hopefully another 90 more. And
so, yeah, let's just talk about what makes the show work and what makes the show not work.
Okay.
Let's talk about the characters.
All right, characters.
Let's kick it off with Peter Parker or Spider-Man. So, he's Peter Parker, Spider-Man. He's a well-rounded character. They develop him very well in the show and everything like that. But he's not perfect.
He's not perfect. He's not like Superman. And even though Superman's not perfect, but he does have faults and he does have things that he has to overcome.
Yeah, he's still quirky. He still has like a little. He has problems like with his love life. He has problems like who should he go out with, that type of thing. Is Aunt May going to worry about me? Why isn't Uncle Ben around anymore? Blah 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 blah.
Well, we know why Uncle Ben is around because of you. But wow, that was harsh. That was really harsh. Like Batman. Why are my parents dead? You wanted to go see the Zorro that night, asshole.
unless it's the Batman Begins series where he gets scared of that opera.
Oh, it's true. But
anyway, Spider-Man in the show, for me, he is very well-rounded, very believable character. He just monologues too much.
Captain's log. Stardate 3945. Spock will not give up the bathroom to me. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Not as dramatic like that, but it's like how in comic books where you have like thought balloons.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And that's what happens a lot, and that happens with the story, and it keeps like pushing forward. But it's not like it doesn't like repeat itself all the time. It's not like the History Channel and you come on like 15 minutes before the end so you know exactly what happens because the narrator reviews everything that's happened up to this point.
Right. However, the monologue of Spider-Man for a kid's level, it does keep them in tune with what is going on, why he's doing certain actions and everything like that. However, for adults, he needs to shut up.
It's very monotonous. It's like, oh, okay, all right, keep swinging. You don't have to keep talking. You're slowing yourself down.
They need quiet moments. Just for him to just do and not, oh, Aunt May is captured and I was, wiping my ass and everything's my fault.
Like a lot of the usual problems with Spider-Man, him being very whiny, it's always his fault, and it's always his. He never takes responsibility, but that's a different issue. But like the pacing of his monologue, it goes along with the pacing of the show because it's like everything's moving fast.
Oh,
I think that the only thing you have a breathing moment is like when the show starts and when the show ends. That's the only time you can catch your breath. Everything else is like.
Yeah, pacing in all the Marvel cartoons from the 90s were horribly fast. There was one episode, the first Insidious 6 episode of season 2.
With all the 6 of Spider-Man's villains get together because of Kingpin.
And Doc Ock was like, I will not work for such an Insidious 6. And then Kingpin was like, well, what happens if I give you a lap? That sounds great. I shall join the Insidious
Within 30
6.
seconds. I was like,
I wasn't even sure it was 10 seconds. He just completely
180. I mean... Only if life could really work like that with some people. But I'd be like, all right, no, I don't want to do it. You should do it. All right. The only, I think the issue I had with Peter Parker is that, but I think that's part of his character is his inability to choose a life with a lover and be like, and not be so juggling. I mean, like. I guess people would consider that an honor. Like, hey, I got 2 girls like going, pulling on me at either side or something like that. Like it's a Clerks situation. But I just feel like it happens so often. I'm just like, all right, dude.
Yeah, he's either with Mary Jane or Felicia Hardy. Mary Jane, Felicia Hardy. There's no in between. There's no like, oh, Gwen Stacy. Afterthought. No, it's either that or that.
Was Gwen Stacy ever mentioned in the show?
Episode?
Very last episode, right?
In a different dimension.
Yeah. But speaking of Mary Jane, should we move on to Mary Jane?
Yeah, let's talk about Mary Jane. The girl in the show that they want you to be. Like, ooh, Mary Jane.
Yes.
Fail.
And this series and the Sam Raimi movies, like Mary Jane.
She's not interesting.
I find her that she's tough and she's willing to be proactive about certain things. Like, being proactive, like, all right, you're not going to be with me? Fine, I'll be with somebody else. Even though it can be like it's out of spite, and she goes out of Harry Osborn out of spite.
Yeah, that was a very kind of more realistic point. But everything else is kind of like very underdeveloped. She's just the pretty redhead that is there to be saved.
She's a foil for a lot of the episodes. Like, all right, we need him to fight somebody. Somebody connect Mary Jane with a running out of a bank or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's nothing serious or like that. But. I gotta give it to the show, though, because they actually made the last few episodes of Mary Jane really interesting.
Oh, yeah, and and tragic.
And tragic, because she does go, at one point in the series, she gets kidnapped by Green Goblin, she falls into an alternative dimension, and was never seen again.
Yes.
Until one episode where she stumbles in, soaking wet, doesn't know where she came from. And then that leads to a bunch of stuff happening. Peter Parker, Mary Jane eventually get married. And then one episode, Hydro Man comes back and kidnaps Mary Jane.
Hydro Man was a previous boyfriend of Mary Jane who turned himself into Hydro Man via certain chemicals so he can turn himself into H2O. And he can move around all H2O and control it.
Right.
Kind of like how, what's his name from X-Men? Pyro, who can control fire.
Yeah.
Similar situation like that. However, Hydro Man was destroyed and was evaporated. A scientist cloned him.
From the DNA left where he was evaporated.
And Hydro Man only asked for one thing. Mary Jane. So they made a clone of Mary Jane via Hydro Man powers. So at the very end of Mary Jane, she finds that she has the Hydro Man powers and can turn herself into water. Problem is, the science was not 100% working because Hydro Man evaporated, and so does Mary Jane. Mm-hmm. So Peter Parker loses Mary Jane twice, and once literally just falls apart in her hands. I mean, that I find is very tragic.
Yeah, no, the last part is very tragic because she does just completely dies in front of me, freaks out, but then he gets sucked into an alternative dimension, ends up in this whole world battle thing that Madam Web and
we still never found out that
man. No, insert here.
Yeah, we'll put those names up. They decided to find out which is more powerful, good or evil. So they take Spider-Man off Earth for a time being to fight several villains. And amongst this time,
3 episodes worth of time, he doesn't mention Mary Jane at all. Nada. In fact, he beams up to that planet.
Beam me up, Scotty.
Beams a black cat
a.k.a. Felicia Hardy.
Felicia Hardy hooks up with her and doesn't mention Mary Jane until episode 4 or 5 afterwards, and that was barely once.
Oh yeah, and the show we never see Mary Jane again.
Yeah,
it ends on a cliffhanger. Madam Web and Spider-Man going through dimensions looking for her. That's how the story ends. We never see her again. But let's move on to Felicia Hardy, a.k.a. the Black Cat.
The Black Cat, the more interesting love life that Peter should have went with, but failing. All right, well, Felicia Hardy, let's start with Felicia Hardy, because she, part of Black Cat, but, she
the alter ego.
Yeah, she is a very rich, proper, brought-up girl who has, no time for the little life, but ends up finding Peter Parker a little bit intriguing. But then, because of Peter's constant lateness on dates and everything like that, she said, well, fuck you.
Yeah, and almost just like Mary Jane, out of spite. However, Felicia does find love in a character by the name of Morbius.
Yeah.
But like every other love life that Felicia Hardy has in this show, it goes wrong.
He ends up turning into a vampire.
A vampire?
That craves plasma.
Wait, plasma?
Plasma.
Oh. You're less interesting than Twilight vampires.
Now that's saying something.
And so she never ends up with Peter Parker in the end because her love for Morbius.
Right.
Even despite...
even though she falls in love with Spider-Man and falls in love with Peter Parker...
Separately.
When Morbius enters into the picture, she ends up...
Re-falling in
love with him because she was never... forgot about him and everything like that and went off to be with him.
And they went off with the character Blade of the Blade series to fight vampires in Europe. However,
she starts losing interest in Morbius because he becomes very
single-minded in the fight against vampires, even though he's one of them.
Right.
And at that time, that's when she's beamed up to the planet. I already made that joke. Beamed up to the planet with this battle is going on. But she's not beamed up as Felicia Hardy, she's beamed up as Black Cat. Black Cat came out of a situation where her father was a master thief. And during World War II, stumbles upon the experimentation of the super soldier, a.k.a. Steve Rogers.
Captain America.
And he looks at a blackboard that has the formula of the super soldier on it. And since her father had a photographic memory, never forgot it. And since the Doctor, like in a lot of the Captain America lore, and as well as the newest Captain America movie that came out just about a little over a year ago, the head Doctor was killed. Mm-hmm. And nobody knew the rest of the formula but him. He only one who really knew the formula, but since in this TV series, the formula was destroyed, and he's the most dangerous man out there, or at least one of the most dangerous criminals because of his knowledge.
Right.
And that's why during S.H.I.E.L.D.,
S.H.I.E.L.D. actually arrests him and keeps him on that floating fortress of theirs to keep him from revealing the formula, which he has never done and never wanted to.
However, during a situation where Kingpin hires Chameleon to take the father's place up in the fortress, the real father is stolen from the fortress, brought to Kingpin, gives him the formula, but Kingpin tests out the formula on Felicia Hardy, becoming the perfect super soldier to be able to turn it on and turn it off.
It was modified by Smith,
right?
Who gave her the power of turning the super serum on, which made her this ripped, athletic thief.
Yes, with all white hair.
With all white hair and
very more voluptuous.
More land. And then she could turn off to be petite Felicia Hardy again.
It's almost like the perfect alter ego like that.
Yeah, I mean the whole switching on and off. There's a clear difference between the two.
It's not like Clark Kent with the glasses and the suit, and Bruce Wayne with the only yellow suit in the animated series. And hi, Doc. Hi.
I'm Clark Kent. I'm Superman. Clark Kent. Superman. Hey, Clark. Why are you?
What if Clark got contact lenses?
There was in the movies that there was a scene where Lois takes Clark's glasses off to clean them for him.
Right.
And he's just standing there without glasses on. He's like, and no one recognizes it.
maybe that's what they'll bring up in Man of Steel. Maybe somebody will question that, like, why don't you wear contact lenses?
Right, but even with Black Cat's disguise, which is like
a cat,
cat mask, it's very simple, very thin.
Yeah.
It would be actually really hard to identify her as Felicia Hardy because of her appearance change.
Yeah, I always question why nobody figures out Peter Parker's Spider-Man because he's the same voice. It's not like, hey, don't I know you from somewhere? And people wonder why Batman did his voice differently. His phone went off.
But Black Cat is a very interesting character. She actually falls in love. Since still Felicia Hardy, she still is in love with Spider-Man, and Spider-Man falls in love with Black Cat, and they just really get into each other. And this was like a couple of episodes after Mary Jane first disappears, which I also got pissed off because he's so like, Mary Jane's gone. Hey, Black Cat, want to come over, hang out? Yeah.
It's kind of like there was a comic book, Spider-Man One More Day, where Mephisto asks to give up the marriage of Peter Parker and Mary Jane to save Aunt May.
Yeah.
And they do, and it's supposed to be a huge event. He does. Everything goes back to when he was in high school and everything like that. And a few issues later, he's making out with some random chick. I'm just like, that's why
he rebounds really quick.
Yeah. And people wonder why some people don't take Spider-Man so seriously, and I really hate One More Day, but I'm not going into that one.
But Black Cat initially does leave Spider-Man to be with Morbius because he comes back and then wants to go kill everything. So she's actually a very more interesting character, and then the whole backstory that the show keeps giving her, she actually has more episodes than Mary Jane does. So it's a little questionable why they wanted Mary Jane as the star female.
Because maybe she's more consistent.
I guess, but Felicia Hardy, Black Cat, is a more interesting character.
Let's move on to Aunt May. We could sum this up quick. She only does 3 things in the entire show. Worry about Peter, hate Spider-Man, and get kidnapped.
Yeah, she's more bland than Mary Jane was.
And she's like the only character I really can't say, like, Spider-Man is evil! Boom! Shut up!
Peter, you're sick, you're gonna get a cold if you go outside. Wears the same damn thing every day. He hasn't gotten a cold yet.
Yeah. It's just like, I always found their relationship rather creepy.
Yeah, you keep saying there's like an incestual.
I mean, like some people have made like references that it could be an incestual relationship between the two, but it's not really brought up here. Thank God.
Yeah, thank God.
Let's move on to a more interesting character.
Next up is James Jonah Jameson, or Jigsaw Jameson, for you keeping count. Alright, he's not that bad of a character.
No, he's actually a rather consistent character after the... Well...
Season 1, he was a villain. He pays people to kill Spider-Man.
Yes.
He actually helped fund the creation of
Scorpion.
Which, goes off chains and...
Really, backfires.
It backfires. And after that, he's like, okay, I'm done. I'm just going to badmouth him with my newspaper and TV show.
It's like... You mess it. Mac Gargan, that was the name. I remember I was having trouble remembering the name. Yeah, Mac Gargan is the character that J. Jonah Jameson puts in the Scorpion outfit, and he turns him into Scorpion via neogenics, right?
Yeah, neogenics. The reason why they chose Scorpion was because scorpions kill spiders,
which is a normal thought.
Yeah,
which is a logical thing.
So they just throw him into a green scorpion suit with a giant tail that shoots acid. What could possibly go wrong?
Oh, wait. This is the Marvel Universe. It's science. Everything goes wrong.
Come on. Think.
So
he ends up, going off the rails, wants to kill Spider-Man, then ends up trying to kill Jonah.
Because he can't get out of the suit now. And
yeah.
Gargan feels like that Jonah Jameson is responsible for it, which he is.
Yeah, he is.
He was right about that. I don't really blame him for wanting to get his revenge on JJJ. But the thing is with Jameson, like at least the show shows more as the show goes on that he cares about Peter more and more.
Yeah, because Peter does freelance photography for the Daily Bugle, and they throw Spider-Man pictures into it and everything like that. Jameson's always on Peter's case for not being there, or like, you know, how do you get these pictures? They're all crap and everything like that. But,
and he always says, "Why don't you just turn in Spider-Man for a reward or something like that?"
Yeah, but there's several episodes, like the one episode where Peter gets framed for a crime that he doesn't do. Jonah ends up hiring the best lawyer he could find,
Matt Murdock, aka
Daredevil. And but he never tells Peter that
it's out of secret, and he tells Murdock not to tell him, and it's on until the very end of, I think it's like a 2-parter, right?
Yeah, it's a 2-part episode,
and like it's the very end of the 2-parter. Murdock goes to Jameson for his rate, and he gets to get paid, and he says, "Why didn't you? Well, it's more like this. Why didn't you tell Peter that I was his lawyer?" All right, that was really bad.
Yeah. But another episode was when Peter is getting married to Mary Jane, which I thought was weird because it only took 1 month to plan a wedding.
Yeah, right. My sister's been engaged for almost a year, and the wedding's not until next September. Right.
Yeah, but Jameson and the Kingpin get into this pissing match to who can get a better wedding to Peter.
And because Peter had worked for Wilson Fisk for a time being, and that's how he ended up getting in trouble and getting arrested. But Wilson Fisk thinks it's his responsibility to take care of Peter, unbeknownst to him that he's Spider-Man. So it is actually a pretty funny banter. It's like I got the best pastry chef in Queens.
I got the pastry chef of the Queen.
Like, it's like, all right, how are they going to really top this? And I love at the very end of the wedding, what does Jameson get? Peter and
Jameson ends up the wedding present that Jameson ends up giving Peter and Mary Jane was the Daily Bugle van.
A broken down van. It has a big wanted poster of the Spider-Man on the side. The guest is like as it drives away. I don't know how the hell they drove that to Niagara Falls and back without breaking down.
No, it did break down when Peter finally got back to.
Yeah. It would have died at Syracuse. It would have not started again.
No. But the character itself is really interesting because he does contrast himself, and there's actual depth into him. But we never know why he hates Spider-Man so much.
It's just one of those things, but it's one of those things that we can almost kind of accept.
Yeah, he just hates him.
Aunt May hating Spider-Man? There's no reason. And we question that.
Yeah, in different universes, Aunt May either likes Spider-Man or hates him. It's
like in the Sam Raimi movies, she likes Spider-Man because she eventually finds out Peter is Spider-Man.
Jameson, every single time, hates Spider-Man.
Despite Spider-Man saving his life several times. And but let's move on to the main villain of Spider-Man, Kingpin. 300 pounds
of pure muscle.
Yet he looks very
fat.
He almost looks like he could have been a stunt double for the Boulder at Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I will crush you.
And so the Kingpin of Crime is the consistent villain throughout the series. Was not the main villain of the first season, but the rest of the seasons, most of the things that happened because of the Kingpin.
He wasn't season 1, but he wasn't the main villain. There were several villains that that shared the front seat
because that had to set him up.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he was one of the last people to be set up.
But season 2 and on, it's mainly Kingpin
and his plots,
and him hiring these villains out, and
all that stuff.
Yeah, it's really cool. But Kingpin is not just crime lord; he is Wilson Fisk.
Yes, the face of a huge corporation, international corporation around the world. That's also aligned with the Daily Bugle. It also works with Oscorp, and he's like. How would you describe him? He's kind of almost like Bruce Wayne, but like...
He's a philanthropist.
Philanthropist.
Yeah, philanthropist.
So who gives out his... Well, if you don't know what a philanthropist is, a person who gives money to charity.
Yes. And then spends time on various boards and make sure, like, stockholders and everything like that.
And I remember, like, the first time, like, Spider-Man and Kingpin... Spider-Man and Wilson Fisk, anyway, interacted was when Peter Parker saves Wilson Fisk from being killed by the Hobgoblin, who was hired by... Norman Osborn.
Yes.
But then that's a complicated episode because Hobgoblin keeps
going back and forth and everything like that. Yeah.
And
talk about pacing.
Yeah. Dude. It's like,
I want to kill you. 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 Just take the mask off and be Joker.
Yes, Hobgoblin was voiced by Mark Hamill, who and like it looks like, it's, like whenever he laughs, he's kind of like holding it back just a little because everybody's gonna know that laugh. Where
you just want him to go, and just do the Joker laugh.
And the funny thing is, the guy who voiced Ra's al Ghul in the animated series is Dr. Landon in this, and it's funny because Dr. Landon and Hobgoblin fought at once, so it's like, wait, it's like Ra's al Ghul fighting the Joker. And the funny thing is, if Dr. Landon turns into a mutant, then gets turned back into like a huge monster like Godzilla, but then turns back into like a humanoid form that's still human. Like half of his face is messed up, so he looks like Two-Face. So like, how many Batman references can he get out of this character?
A lot.
But back to the Kingpin, and we're going on tangents, you know that.
Yeah. But the Kingpin, he's not just evil.
No.
He's not a sociopath. He actually is a very caring person. He has a kid
and a wife.
And rival crime
lords
kidnapped his wife to make him surrender some secret object, ancient object that needs to be fueled to revive this crime lord's youth.
Yes, who was a very old man who they found like I think it was like I think they made up either Aztec or they made up a
it was Central American. Something sound in Central America that could revive old warriors back to their prime.
One of it was the Mayan calendar. Like, why isn't it working?
2013 is not going to exist. Why is that?
And so Kingpin's wife is kidnapped, and
he just drops everything and throws all of his resources and funds to save her. I mean, he does. He has a chance to actually finish off Spider-Man. He's like, no. Get her. Forget about him.
And people are like scratching their heads like, wait, but it's Spider-Man. My wife is number one. And it's like another situation where she was kidnapped again later in the series. However, after she's rescued from that, she leaves him.
Yes.
Which is probably the smartest thing that anybody did in that series. Was like because she realized it's only going to get worse from here. And I kind of feel bad for King because he loses his wife and his son goes to jail.
But he ends up in this depression, and after that episode, he actually takes a backseat from being the main villain. It's like does very little villainous things. He actually goes into a depression and doesn't find any interest in crime that much anymore.
Because this is something I live by: is like what's life without family?
Yeah,
one form or another. So I think I can understand that one.
Now, my only question is, from the backstory that the show gave him, he was like raised in like New York and stuff like that, and
yet he has a
English
accent. Maybe he just puts it on to sound more.
No, even the backstory they gave him an English sounding accent as a kid,
and yet his father has like a real New Yorker accent,
New York Irish immigrant accent. Or Italian. I don't know. His dad was a mobster.
I think he had like almost like a stereotypical Italian accent. So, son, no, I just sound like walking there for a second. Son, you're the kingpin of crime.
Kill him.
Why? I can't even finish my monologue.
Nope. He actually does kill his father. Well, he gets his father taken away,
and we can assume that he kills his father because his father left him to take the rap of a crime. And that's the funny thing is because that backstory happens during the episode where his son gets put in jail.
But unlike his dad, Kingpin devises a plan to break his son out. But anyway, let's just keep moving on to a staple of the Spider-Man series.
Venom. Also known as Eddie Brock.
Yeah, however, the animated series does not give Venom its due.
I remember I bought the DVD like the Venom series.
Yeah.
It's like a total of 5 episodes.
5 in total throughout the entire series.
And I'm just like, okay, I can understand because I remember they sold one like Batman. Spider-Man and Daredevil. I'm like, okay, they only appeared in a few episodes. I can understand why you make a DVD of that, and then why there's only a few.
Venom is like one of those characters that is very essential to the Spider-Man story because because the symbiote suit that crashed into the planet is evil, and Spider-Man fights for good, and it's the really test where he stands in that very fine line of good and evil. Like, he's always on the rail of vigilantism for good and vigilantism for bad.
Yeah. And it's like Batman not having the Joker. The universe would not work.
Right.
And Venom is just underused. Eddie Brock's like backstory of how he became Venom is rushed.
Very rushed. I haven't seen. I saw the show not too long ago. And I can barely remember why exactly he was kicked out of the paper.
It was something he forged. Rhino stealing the stuff out of the space shuttle crash at Spider-Man. And
Right.
They found that out. That's how the symbiote comes to Earth because it was
attached to the JJ's son's space shuttle that they went to the moon and they came back and it crashed on like the Brooklyn Bridge.
I think it was I'm pretty sure it was the Brooklyn Bridge, and the symbiote like attacked the two pilots.
Yeah,
and the symbiote was on there, and
then it eventually attaches itself to
Spider-Man. And if you know Spider-Man lore, he becomes the black suit Spider-Man for a while, realizes that it's too powerful, and he changes his personality too much, rips it from his body, and after the symbiote is rejected by Spider-Man, finds Eddie Brock.
Eddie Brock has a beef with Spider-Man
and Peter Parker.
And then it attaches itself, feeds on his hatred.
It becomes Venom.
He gets captured, gets the suit launched back into space.
Which eventually does come back to him.
Yeah, eventually does crash lands by meteorite back in New York City.
Yeah.
And Eddie Brock goes to jail. Eventually, the symbiote suit finds him. He goes out. But with the symbiote suit, it's split to make Venom and Carnage.
And Carnage found Cletus Cassidy, who was also in the jail. It's not because he was a mass murderer. In typical Spider-Man lore, he was a true sociopath.
Yeah, and this guy,
he's almost like a terrorist in this.
He doesn't kill anyone. He just holds a bunch of people hostage with laser guns.
Yes, laser guns. Because it's a children's TV show. There's only so far you can go.
Yeah. But what they did make it intense, even though none of these laser guns can kill people.
Yes.
But they made it really intense. He gets thrown into the jail with them, and then Carnage finds him, and then there's this whole battle between Spider-Man and Carnage, and Venom has to choose whether to help Carnage or
help Eddie Brock's love of this psychiatrist who's been helping him with the split personality.
Right, in prison. Very legal for New York State psychiatrist to fall in love with a inmate.
Yeah, I think it's a little.
This would be a good episode of SVU.
Dun, dun. Who's also a show that has terrible pacing. Like, I must do this, must do that, but and however, Venom is, I feel, vastly underused in the Spider-Man, at least in this series, and this other character we're about to talk about becomes the forefront, kind of like. The more I think about it, the more like the Sam Raimi series took like its model off this animated show.
Yeah,
because the Green Goblin is the focal point of like a lot of the big episodes in this Spider-Man universe.
Right. And Green Goblin comes about out of the Oscorp board was trying to vote Norman Osborn out of his position because they thought he was underproducing the company and everything like that. And Osborn tries to advance his super soldier serum. It's not that, but it's very
his own
similar.
Chemical weapons that to be able to make you stronger and faster.
And then it blows up in his face, and he split personalities. And the Green Goblin comes to destroy and kidnap and destroy the Osborn stockholders board because they were slandering Osborn's good name, and it was really cool.
It was a really good series. I mean, like that the season, like The Sins of the Father, that's what the name of the season was, and I mean it's almost kind of like justified revenge because of what they did to Osborn. You kind of feel bad for him. Spider-Man does save the day, and the Green Goblin personality becomes becomes recessive, and Norman Osborn comes back to full control of his body. However, the situations get out of hand. Green Goblin comes back, but targets Peter Parker and Spider-Man.
Right.
And what happened to Mary Jane?
one episode, Norman Osborn and Green Goblin, they were conversing with themselves, figure out that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, and through a confrontation, confirms his belief and everything like that, and just that was another great episode.
Yeah.
But because of that, he then when he comes back, he kidnaps Mary Jane.
And then she ends up getting sucked into another dimension,
which also causes him to get sucked into another dimension with the help of Spider-Man throwing him in.
Yeah, because Spider-Man
just lost Mary Jane.
Yeah, it's almost like in Batman Begins where Batman says, like, Ra's al Ghul says, like, "Are you gonna save me?" He's like, "No, I don't have to save you.
I'm not gonna kill you.
I'm not gonna kill you. I'm not
gonna
save you either." And he flies himself out the subway car or the L train, and Ra's al Ghul's like, "Oh, there we go," and that crashes. And the same situation happens to Spider-Man, that he lets Green Goblin get sucked into another dimension.
Right.
And Green Goblin contacts Harry
telepathically
and convinces Harry Osborn to become the Green Goblin, and he starts to lose his mind. And there's a moment where Spider-Man tells him, "Your father was the Green Goblin," and Harry's like, "No, no, no, no." And it's like, and you have like, it's almost like an aside. He's like, you see like Green Goblin's head like floating transparently, and only Harry can see it.
Harry can see it, talk to it,
and it takes off the mask, and it's his father. Harry buries his head in his hands, and he's just like, "I'm so sorry about this." And he lifts his head, and it's like almost like a skull. It's like, it's really creepy. It's like one of those moments you kind of just sit back, like Joaquin Phoenix in Signs. Oh! and he loses it, tries to kill Peter on several times, including bombing their wedding and trying to
force Mary Jane into marrying him.
Kind of like Princess Bride. My wage. My wage! But then comes to his better senses that this is wrong and he shouldn't be doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Green Goblin, pretty much like, besides the Kingpin, probably the focal point of all the really best episodes of the series.
Yeah, Green Goblin episodes were really amazing, and I think also Black Cat episodes were really amazing.
All right, now
let's talk about the show's animation,
which I find to be amazing.
It is really good,
and some of the stuff still like I still kind of go whoa at. Some of the stuff I feel like because they started using 3D animation that looked really, really.
But to the show's benefits, it used it as backgrounds and fast-moving backgrounds at that, where it's not really the focal point. You like Spider-Man's like going through the city really quickly. It's a 3D animation going like back at it, where you're not focusing on that. You just know he's moving at a fast pace.
I remember I was reading an article because I'm going to want to be a filmmaker, and I remember this interview that James Cameron did when he was talking about the action scenes in Terminator 2, that like he would use what they would call longer lenses for when he would have like parallel action, like if the camera was following action sideways or like that, because the background right past the subject would be out of focus, and so the action, the subject would look like it was moving a lot faster. And that's what the 3D animation does with this, because it makes Spider-Man look like he's flying right through Midtown or something like that.
But the show's animation itself was really good. The same cannot be said about characters designs. Spider-Man you can't really mess with because it's a standard red and blue suit with a black web sewn across it. They have a color palette of very bright neon colors, though.
Oh yeah,
particularly on the purple side of things.
A lot of things were purple.
Yeah, 90s eggplant purple.
Good thing they didn't make a animation of the Phantom. I like the Phantom. He's not a fan of the Phantom, but
sorry.
But like, I mean, like that would just be like part of one of the Village people. Hey, we just offended so many people like that.
But I mean, Spider-Man was standard. Venom standard. Mary Jane, kind of weird. She has a bright yellow sweater on with cowboy boots. It's a little weird.
Especially, you ever walk in cowboy boots in New York? Unless you're the naked cowboy, I don't think that many people have.
No. Morbius is a very
dramatic
vampire, but has vagina-like suckers on his hands.
Going back to the plasma.
Sorry. I should have turned this off.
It hits. I'll keep talking. Don't worry. And I'm a huge fan of the Punisher. Punisher's my second favorite superhero, other than Batman. I feel like Punisher. I don't know. I just didn't like his design for this show. It looked like late '80s, early '90s Punisher, and I can accept some of it. And but I guess you would say I'm a bigger fan of like the Garth Ennis 2000s Punisher, and like how the Punisher in this show battle van this, battle van that. Everything that the Punisher does in that show is because he's doing like through a headset via remote controlled battle van that he has. He's like, battle van, go through the drive-through. Battle van,
make me a martini.
Battle van, do my laundry. And like his design, I didn't like that much. Doc
Ock was yellow and green and muscular,
and like
with
goggles.
a bowl hat.
No, like Lego hair. I want to click.
Shocker was the worst design out of everyone.
I'm the Shocker.
I'm the Shocker.
I can't aid for
He's wearing nothing but yellow fishnets and a black.
But that's how the character is designed.
Okay.
I just don't think he looks right in this. Side note of the Shocker, I think it's the worst aim than any other character. I think the Stormtroopers are more accurate than this guy with his firing his the electronic suction thing. I forget what the hell they are that shoots like the energy out of his fist. Black Cat, really good design.
Black Cat's great. I mean, that's another design that you can't really mess with.
Captain America, when he is a cameo, still good design.
Yeah.
Red Skull,
he was decent. I mean,
Hobgoblin
was actually really good. I approved of the bright orange. The mask, the facial features of Hobgoblin was really well done. Green Goblin was also very well done. That was the classic Green Goblin outfit.
Which the mask moved, and it wasn't like a plastic mask, and like the hand.
Well, Hobgoblin was, like it's like a skin tight mask where it moved.
Yeah,
I mean, in the show, that's hard. That's the easiest way to do it. It's not like the
Sam Raimi movie where it was like the mask was like plastic and it had like a mesh visor, the mouth where you could talk out.
The yellow eyes like zit.
Battle van.
They actually did a crossover with the X-Men. And from the X-Men... Love that music. The X-Men, the show originally aired. Then when they were in this, it moved away from what they originally looked like. It went to the Spider-Man universe of how they look. It was just a little bit stepped up. I still think it was a little bit, cartoon. I hate to use cartoony, but
it is a cartoon.
The color palette for the X-Men is yellow and
blue,
baby blue.
Yeah,
and that still is very shonen. It's very, come on. I believe Beast could not scratch his back by the amount of muscles that he had. But that was a cool
Wolverine. Can you scratch my back?
Sure, bub. How do you like that?
I get to see like Wolverine like scratching like blue fur blood going everywhere. And Beast's face like. All right, let's move on to the romance.
Okay, so there were several romances, little romances everywhere, like Felicia Hardy and Morbius. That was a romance. Even less so, you have Flash and some nerdy girl.
Flash Thompson.
Flash Thompson.
Not Flash Gordon like we thought. For
the longest time, we thought I kept saying Flash Gordon, and we're like, wait, that does not sound right because Flash Gordon's Flash Gordon.
Yeah, it's a cereal from the 30s, alright? It's not...
Flash!
The Flash!
Savior of the universe! But it's Flash Thompson, and he, hooks up with this, nerdy girl.
We would need, a diagram to show the romance movie. It's almost like soap opera-ish to the point that it becomes I guess maybe if you pace yourself watching the show, but since we agreed to do this, we had to watch the show. So
yeah,
the last few weeks I was up at school, I was just I was watching this. I'm just like, oh my god, I'm gonna.
You marathon it. You kind of start at one point you kind of get okay, enough.
That's why whenever I watch the Batman anime series, I'll watch one volume, then I'll stop for a while, and then I'll watch something else.
Right.
Because then there's a point where it's just so dark.
But the main romance, getting back on track,
yes.
The main romance is this love triangle between Peter, Mary Jane,
and Felicia
Hardy. Like we said earlier, Peter Parker goes back and forth like a pendulum between the two. And he ends up just going straight towards Mary Jane at the end of the series, which...
I don't think it was the right move.
She's a piece of paper, bland.
Well, she is animation.
She's animation, but still. I mean, I guess he went for redheads. I mean...
Well, I know. I'm just so irresistible. Essentially irresistible.
I just threw up in my mouth.
All right, let's wrap this up.
Okay, but all right. Well, the show overall is really well. It follows a linear storyline, which like every episode adds to the next episode.
Usually, yeah.
Very, very well done. Does it have quirks? Yes. One of my pet peeves in it is the laser guns.
Yeah,
they don't do jack.
I mean, like I think, like I was saying before, like the stormtroopers would have a better shot of hitting.
But those lasers will actually kill you.
Yeah.
These lasers vary in stuff.
It's almost looks like it should be like in a rave or something like that.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It should be like a tech, like laser lights or
they're
something
like
that.
neon pink too.
I mean, I can see where they went there because Terminator. That's the lasers to either.
Right, but those lasers could kill you.
Well, that's true.
They evaporate you into nothing but bones. But these lasers, if you get hit, you just fall backwards. And ow! But that's just a pet peeve of mine. If Batman could get away with using real bullet-firing firearms, then this show can definitely do it.
I think it's because it was like every other Marvel show did, so they kept it consistent. Maybe
Marvel show still does, but they have gotten around it a little bit better.
Yeah, like you said, X-Men Evolution.
But it's military grade, and they will do damage.
Yes.
Other than that, but the show itself, I mean, it has its flaws and everything like that, but it does deserve a good watching because it's that good. It also will take you back to a time of innocence, and everything like that.
So we give it a thumbs up. And what is your rating?
My rating for the show is a B+.
Mine's about a B-, which surprised him initially.
But I kind of see why.
Because the things you pointed out to me more now, I can kind of step back and look at it. I'm like, all right, he has a point there.
And I've also I've done other reviews of other shows, and they've been B- and C+ of like in the same category of Marvel cartoons of the 90s. So,
including Iron Man.
Oh my god, Iron Man! Don't get me started. That was. Read my reviews. I have. I keep posting them. Go to DwDrawings.deviantart.com to read more, and hope you enjoy them.
Yep, and hopefully we can get another video review of this soon.
I hope so too.
All right. So until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.
See ya.